Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Blockchain Monthly Update on Financial Advisor Television. My guest, as always, will be Dan Weiskopf, co-portfolio manager of the BLOK ETF, symbol BLOK. This show is sponsored by Resilient Advisor Coaching. Without simple systems, your business will always be in a state of chaos. After implementing our Resilient Advisor framework, you will become hyper-focused, clear on your value, and confident in your ability to grow. That will make you free to build your ideal life. Learn more by visiting resilientadvisor.com. Dan, I want to welcome you back to the show. We've been producing these for almost 2 years now. Can you believe that?
It's been a long time and so much has happened. So it's been an exciting period. Sometimes great, sometimes more challenging.
That's right. That's right. So as co-portfolio manager of the ETF BLOK, symbol BLOK, you've got a front row seat to this industry. Last year was a real challenge. I mean, the bubble burst. Why did the bubble burst?
Well, with excess comes froth. And we've gone through a period of time where liquidity has really mattered, right? And you could see it in like the simple indicators, meaning just the treasury, the way it was trading, just in general, liquidity was pulled out of the system. And you know what? Let's be honest. So that happened also with Bitcoin. So I think, with that comes, the rug getting pulled out of it. And well, we can't forget about FTX.
I definitely want to get to FTX here in a minute. Your partner, Michael Venuto, had a saying that I really latched onto a couple of years ago. And he said 2 years ago, right now we're in the pets.com era of blockchain and crypto development, which if you're not old enough to remember, pets.com was a high-flying internet stock in 1999 that is no longer with us today. And it was a symbol of all of the froth in the marketplace. Mm-hmm. Dan, are we on the other side of the pets.com era?
Well, to that point, pets.com went away and Chewy came around, right? So are we at the other side? I think we're headed that direction. In my piece, I talk about bored apes. And what I'm referring to in general is, we need to get some stability in the space, right? I've seen evidence of a lot of evolution and nuts and bolts things happening. And to your point, businesses are getting developed. There's no question about that. We see the evidence in that. Are we fully on the other side? We'll see. Bitcoin, excitement right now seems to indicate that things are getting better.
All right, viewers and listeners, you can download this report by going to bloketf.com. Dan, in that report, you said this is the year where it might make sense to go on the offensive in this space. What do you mean?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, price matters, but price does not always indicate value. And so I think what we're headed for is, as product development occurs, the cream is going to rise to the top. The survivors are going to thrive. So I think it's an interesting period of time where we should be playing offense as opposed to defense in our actively managed strategy. And that's what I meant by it. And, in the case of the miners, we added to them, right? In the case of Coinbase, we added to that as well, to take a step forward and take advantage of some of the extremes that were occurring. Galaxy is another one. I don't want to get ahead of us, but that's what I meant by it. Because what did we have? We had a buyer strike in December, right? We had tax loss selling, and there were in Bitcoin going down. So there were just no buyers. So now we're seeing a massive rebound in the space. And, we might trade in some kind of trading range. But after we go through that trading range, we'll be charging away.
All right. Well, we can't do a review of last year, 2022, without talking about FTX and SBF. So last year, this time, as we were getting ready for baseball season, the FTX logo was on the chest of umpire officials as we started the season. The leader of the company, Sam Bankman-Fried, was speaking at global events and was thought of as a global entrepreneur and philanthropist. Right now, for some reason, he's not in jail, but he is going to be put on trial for what he has done to that company and so many investors. How is an outsider looking at the space not going to be overly concerned about fraud and froth in this space after watching what happened with that company?
Great question, and sad truth, right? Conceptually, decentralized finance it just sounds as a soundbite great, right? The problem is, not everybody knows what's going on. That's just a simple reality, right? And so I think what we're going to have occur is some accountability at this point. And we want to see regulators come in and give people more confidence because they're on top of things. We've gone through a period of time, let's be honest, where it was like a cowboy, you know, period of time where everybody was going crazy. And I think we're now in a period of time where the adults are in the room. And part of that means people will go to jail, like Sam. And we've had bankruptcies. Not a good thing. But let's be clear about one thing. Everybody's got to learn how to size their risk properly.
Mm-hmm. Well, another thing that was noted in your report, there's some institutional players who do have brand and risk management teams that could flush out this space, have really started to move into this marketplace, like BlackRock, Google, Bank of New York, Mellon, and Fidelity, surprisingly. What's your take on these folks coming into the space?
Well, Fidelity's been in the space for multiple years, for sure. I mean, but they're getting more aggressive, which is exciting, right? The collaboration between BlackRock and Coinbase should offer up a structure where institutions can safely invest, right? That's super exciting. The funny thing is, if that news had hit in 2021, I mean, Bitcoin might have been 100,000, but it hit in 2022. And I think that's an example of infrastructure getting built for institutions to come in. And institutions want to see regulation. And now I think we're going to see some more regulation, and they're going to have more confidence in the process.
All right, let's pivot to this year, 2023, and things to watch. And this is from your report. The first thing is getting back to basics. Walk us through it.
Yeah. I tried to be funny. I don't know if anybody got it, but Bored Apes, right? I think Bored Apes is an example of, let's go through a period of time where I know everybody's got this image and this illustration of a bored ape, but let's go through this period of time where Bitcoin just trades in a range. Maybe it's 20 to 30,000, right? That would be maybe not boredom. Maybe it'll be very exciting. But in that period of time, it'll create some stability. And that'll create more confidence to answer your question before, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the back to basics. And what does that end up meaning? It means that Bitcoin and Ethereum will be the focus as opposed to a lot of the altcoins.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's something you and your team have been saying for a while now.
Yes.
Also in the report, you talk about the need to pay attention to and lean into regulation and the trading infrastructure in these organizations. What do we need to watch? What should we be paying attention to?
At the end of the day, I think there's a general consensus that we want regulation to come around. And you brought up Fidelity, you brought up BlackRock, Coinbase, et cetera. Regulators need an entity to regulate, right? They need an adult in the room to monitor. Silvergate, a very awkward situation to say the least, is regulated by the Treasury, right? The most regulated entity perhaps in the space. Maybe that's a good thing, right? And we think that there'll be a survivor, as an example, and then we'll see what happens with the stock from there. But at the end of the day, my point on all this is the regulators are coming in, and the survivors who have built the infrastructure will be the thrivers.
All right, Dan, let's wrap up with this question. And it's probably the most difficult one. Could you please walk me through the Lightning Network, what it is, what the implications are, like I'm an 8th grader?
Like you're an 8th grader. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, here's the thing to focus on in the Lightning Network. Michael Saylor, who's far smarter than I am, has said that he's got basically a skunk works group out of MicroStrategy working on the Lightning Network to build more use cases in cybersecurity or marketing, right? So what should investors be looking at? They should be looking at, in the first quarter, what Michael Saylor comes out with as an evolution on the Lightning Network.
So what is the Lightning Network?
So it's like the second level in terms of Bitcoin, and it enables faster development on Bitcoin.
And when you say second level, is it technology that's on top?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Excellent. Well, Dan, listen, I really appreciate you coming on. I always learn a lot on these episodes. To download your copy of the most recent report, please visit BLOKETF.com. Dan, Happy New Year.
Thanks, Jay. It was always great to be on your show.